MVC. By far, this lecture is the most important of them all. If you don't get what's happening this week, you're out. And I mean it. Like this is the basis of modern web development. And I'm gonna painlessly keep repeating that. Like I'm gonna beat that dead horse, like Oliver did with oh, this program is going to be intensive. So like I don't know if you remember that. He does this for every intro. So like I'm gonna repeat that this thing, what we're going to touch upon today, RESTful routes, is like I strongly encourage you, because that's gonna be in the link. The link is gonna be there in the README. Take it out, print it out, rewrite it by hand, tattoo it on you. Just you have to know all of that and how this works. You have to internalize it so deeply that you know it as good as your own name, date of birth, and the name of your first pet. Like literally, you have to remember all of that. Pardon? Thank you. Now I know how to answer your security question on like majority of the sites. Very good intuition. So. It's called social engineering. But before we get into that, I want to talk about MVC. This topic is not technical, it's a design topic. So, you know, when you write your applications or like write any code, you may as well, if you have a bunch of Ruby code, you could put it in one file and be done with it. Like, it doesn't matter to a computer. Everything could be in one file, long file that has all the code, everything's going to run. If you want to separate things, you separate them out, but not for the computer, but you separate the things out for yourself and other programmers that are going to work on it. So this is, we're taking that concept a bit further, and we're going to actually separate files by their, let's call it function in the MVC architecture. MVC stands for Model View Controller. I think I've used the word model already plenty of times in the last module when we had classes that represent data are called models, right? But in MVC architecture, it's not model is not only the class itself, but it's, you can think of all the data layer and data layer handling as the model bit. Okay? You can think of the controller as something that holds the logic, and the view is something that presents it. So, listen up, important bit. I'm going to say that like 15 times in the structure, like at least once every minute on average. So, Bob opens the web browser, right? Bob types in a URL, www.horseswebsite.com, because Bob likes horses. And that, whatever server name gets resolved to an IP, right? The URL gets sent to the server, and the server goes like, Bob wants this website, I'm going to send him the index page. Right? That decision was made in a bit of code that we're going to call the controller. Right? Someone selected the URL, they sent a request using the browser. That bit of code is handled by the controller. The controller says, what did you want? Oh, index. Cool. Then, because Bob wants to see horses, the controller goes like, great, Bob wants to see all the horses. It's like, by default, you will see some kind of an index page, everything or something. So the controller sends a request to the model and says, yo, give me all the horses. And the horses, as data, get fed from the database. They get passed back to the controller. So what controller knows what the user wants to see, fetches the data needed for it, then goes to the view, so some kind of file that describes how it should be presented, right? Like a HTML file. We're going to use something called ERB templates, but they get, like, you use that to build HTML files. The controller goes like, yo, I want the horses. The horses come from the model. It takes the horses, plugs them into the view. Once that's ready, that gets sent to Bob. And the reason for the split for model, control, and view is no other than the fact that it's for us humans easier to think about than having everything together. If we have one file that describes the data, one file that describes the logic, and one file that describes the presentation, it's easy to think about. It's like you want to change how something looks. You don't go to one big file that like describes everything, logic, view, data. You go to one file that has only how things look, information on how things look, right? If you want to change the data, you go to the file that decides what's to fetch. If you want to change the model, so what the data is, you go there. In concept, pretty simple. In execution, gets slippery. Who has ever written a line of PHP? none here. So that example falls flat because PHP can be written straight into HTML. So you can write HTML and put PHP inside of HTML, and it's just gonna like work. That's how PHP works. Ruby can't do that. So what we're gonna do today, the ERB templates. I know I'm saying all the things, not showing them. That's the kind of lecture today, but I'm gonna do some stuff too. So going back, we're gonna have templates in our Ruby world, but this doesn't mean that Ruby gets run in the browser. It's building templates that will be built on the server and then sent to the browser as raw HTML. There's no way to run Ruby in the browser. You may get that kind of an impression that this is what's happening. No, this is not what's happening. Browsers only understand JavaScript, nothing else. That's all. Yeah.
Is this something that like every single developer is like basic to them, or like amateur developers will not split this correctly?
Yes, you answered the question. The second bit is true.
Okay.
Like, you will make that mistake plenty of times. I make that mistake plenty of times. It's often, once you're going to see the templates in action, you will see how easy it is to start putting logic here. Or what data to fetch. Because like, Ruby doesn't care. Like, it's just a convention that we do that. Like, there's no programmatic reason at all. Yeah?
What did they do for this?
We made mistakes, and that's what gave us the solution.
Yeah. So they did like the whole one page sort of thing.
Oh, we're pretty high up in the evolution of web frameworks at this moment. Also, this is getting like, if you're gonna get into the world of like single page applications and JavaScript frameworks, React, Angular, Vue, this kind of stuff, this is gonna be obsolete for these people, right? But this doesn't mean this is older, this is different, this is server rendered web pages. Like, and the single page applications have different architecture. You will get a lot of like JavaScript kits, which means people from 16 to 20, 30 years old who only have ever written JavaScript, did not see anything else, and they think it's the only way to do things. They will probably talk a lot of shit about that, just because they don't understand it and never used it. It's a way to design software. It's one of the most popular ways we build server-side rendered applications, and this is what we're going to teach you. You're going to see the second bit, the single-page application attitude, in modes 3 and 4, so that's coming. Don't worry, you'll see both. But the answer is yes. Before that, they made mistakes, and they were like, no, don't do that anymore. Let's structure this way because we're getting insane. Cool. Also, it's just a convention. It's just the way people were like, yo, I don't understand any of your code. And the second person said, yo, me neither. And they were like, how to organize it. Obviously, there's more history to it. Probably you can find a better formed explanation of how this happened, but this solves a human problem, not a computing problem. That MVC model, nothing to do with computers, just us humans. There's some more. I like to say that this lecture and the next one and like a couple more is just it's a acronym festival, because we talk about REST, CRUD, and HTTP. So RESTful design. REST stands for, you can listen to it, what I say now, and then immediately discard it. Like, you don't have to know it. REST stands for Representational State Transfer. So there was a guy, I forgot his name, who was studying computer science, and he was like, once again, every computer scientist starts every sentence with yo. So he was like, yo, I like all this like HTTP network calls, like they make no sense. I write an application in one way, my friend writes it the other way, and like it doesn't like, I'm having trouble understanding him, although we do the same thing. So his friend was like, yo, why don't we do the same thing? So the first one was like, yo, I'm gonna write a master's dissertation on it. And he did. And just so happened that this master's dissertation, always like undergrad, changed the world of like how we write web applications, because that person has suggested, because all we do to database is CRUD, right? We create, read, update, and delete resources. That person suggested that if we, you remember HTTP codes, right? For sure I mentioned them. There's like, you can make gets, put, deletes, posts, all of these things, right? Just a convention, once again, it's just a message. But he was like, if we did that, and then like, that directly correlates to these HTTP verbs, why don't we start thinking about resources in web applications using that? Like, we have HTTP, we have CRUD, why don't we say these things together make REST? And so did he. He's written a paper, and that was 10, 15 years ago, or even less. And then everyone was like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. So now every resource in your database, in your web application, It's not going to be always true for every application. But this design leads to very sane, very responsible, very predictable API. Okay, what we're showing you in general during this course are best practices, the ways people ideally design things. Obviously, in the real world, you will find that not many people stick to it because maybe they don't know how to do it, or maybe they arbitrarily decided it's best for them not to do that. But this is the holy grail of clarity. This is the school way of how you structure your application. Great place to start, and I want you to have this link, as I said, ingrained in your memory by the end of next week. Because everything you will write in Sinatra and Rails applications will depend on your understanding of that. If you don't get this table, which obviously we're going to talk about, it's not going to be showing that. If you don't understand this table, you're in deep, deep problems. So, if you think about it, let's say we're building up a app about dogs. Okay? So you have a model of a dog in your let's say in your basement, in your database. You have a model of a dog in your database. If you were to show a user all the dogs, we usually refer to like the main page about something as an index page, right? So an index view, okay, back to the MVC model view controller paradigm, index view will have a path. Path is what goes into the URL after the web page name. A path of a plural of the name of the model. So in that case, dogs. You access it using a get HTTP verb, and the purpose is to list all of everything. Okay? So if we go into active record like Ruby console, prior, whatever, and you say dog.all, this is the equivalent of doing that operation. You do that dog.all in the database, the model does it and sends it to the controller, but that's the first RESTful route. Okay? Also, I'm going to ask you to say that word. Roots. My example just fell flat. Imani?
Routes.
Nice, thank you. I was say Americans say routes. They vote, like I mean, it's in the country, right? So people give me a lot of bad stuff for saying routes, right? I do it because of the fact that there's two things in computer science that are pretty important, and they just seem to have exact same pronunciation, right? Root, route, 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 root, route. Two different things. Letters different, sounds different. All fine with me. So that's why I did it. If you think that it should be said root, choose your battles. I say root because I don't want to confuse that with I say route because I don't because I don't want to confuse it with root. That's like the root of something. Root directory. I say route because of that. But there's no other reason for it. Some people say root. I have to think a while now. RESTful routes, not roots. End of the tangent. We're back on the main branch of thinking. Now the next verb we want to talk about, sorry, the next route is new. You go to that part of the web application if you want to create something, because that app is about dogs. We're going to be creating dogs, right? The path is plural of the model / new. You get a get, and that shows you the form. That doesn't create anything. It's like a man or a lady in a window in an office that sits there with forms to create new dogs. And you go to her and him and just like grab the form and go like fill it up. Fill it in, fill it in. But once you fill it in, you go to a different window where you submit these forms, right? It kind of makes sense in like if you think about building. It's good to have the metaphor in when building web apps. So the window in which you submit the form to is called create. Because like new gives you the form, create, you put the form in, so it gets created. That thing, you only send it to /docs. Because like it's not specific to anything else. It's like a form for a dog, yeah, it's gonna go to dogs. You do the post request because you send something, you submit the form, and it creates a new dog, then redirect somewhere. Because like once you create something, you don't want to stay in this like form that created it. You want to go somewhere. Maybe see the dog you've created, maybe see all of them up to us.
Sorry.
Yes.
What's the difference between new and create in this context?
a very old. How's like bureaucracy in Finland? If I want to sort something out, is it a lot of like actual tangible paper, or do I have to? In Poland, it's all tangible paper.
Yeah. Well.
Is it a lot of paper?
Yeah, that's the one.
So imagine you want to submit a request for driver's license.
Yeah.
You would go to, in any case, you go to a post office, you get a picture of your face, you send it out, right? In Poland, so maybe in Finland too, so you will have that experience in the past. In Poland, I have to go to the office, knock on someone's door, and say, yo, every computer scientist has a sentence with yo, yo, I want a driver's license. They give me a form, a piece of paper that describes all I have to fill in. But they will not take the completed form from me, right? So once I fill it in, I have to go to a different room and take that form I got from that room and put it somewhere else. The first room was the path for new. They give me the empty form. The second room was the path for create, where I put the form in. The create thing, maybe it's just a box. But they're like, sorry, we don't take these forms, we just give you the blank ones. So new is the blank form thing that you get, right?
Right.
Create is the thing you post into. It's like a mailbox for completed forms. And that mailbox is eating that form and doing stuff to the database. I know it's just like, it doesn't exist yet, I'm just talking about, I'm going to make it work in a second so you'll maybe see and like literally experience that. Show, once something is created, you can look at it. So there's a route for it. You go to show, you go to slash plural of the resource name slash ID. So everything has an ID, you say show dogs one, and you should see a dog. So again, HTTP, edit and update, same thing as new and create. Because if you want to edit something, you go to the window when they have these like driving license forms, but your driving license form has a mistake on it. You misspelled your name. I do that all the time. Have you seen the same? So like, I go, okay, sorry, I want my form back. So I take that form from them, that's already filled in, but they don't take it back from me. Like they can't take it, there's a different box to put it in. So they give me the form, half filled in with all the typos, I fix it, and put it into the update box. So new and edit give you the forms, create an update, talk to the database, they receive forms, right? And destroy is just a shredder. You just put something in it and it disappears. So these are the 7 RESTful routes. With that, you can do a complete CRUD of a resource in your database. It feels like an overkill, but it leads to a lot of sanity when you design your software. Remember, all these things we're talking about today became to be because people were losing their minds, because they couldn't organize their code, and like they couldn't communicate between different applications because they didn't know what the architecture will be. If we decide to do everything that way, it becomes better for everyone. So that's all when it comes to talking. I strongly suggest you get these RESTful routes link here. Once again, I'm going to say it over and over again. Please do print it out or write it by hand, even better, because you're going to internalize a bit more and really, really memorize it, even if you don't understand it yet. Because when it comes to that, there's no question in terms of whether you can or can't know it. This is crucial. You don't know it, you don't pass the code challenge today, I can tell you that. Because everything you will build in the web applications will depend on you understanding these concepts. They're simple, but there's 7 of them, and they have 4 fields each, right? So 7 times 4, 28. There's like 28 little boxes that you have to fill in your mind. It is quite a bit. So let's get practical. I'm going to use a gem called Corneille. Anyone into Sinatra as a singer? No? Neither am I. I'm just like waiting for someone to tell me that they know why Corneille is called Corneille. Anyway, Corneille is a little app that's going to build up a scaffolding of a Sinatra application. So Sinatra is an MVC framework that is just a bunch of Ruby code that handles the server logic. It handles all the things that you would hope it will. Sorry, did we have a rack lecture last week? No, we didn't. We can supplement Sinatra with the rack lecture, but we had the intro to the internet talk, right?
So Sinatra is handling all of these things that Washira has explained in the intro to the internet. It enables us to set up the server, it enables us to get requests in, send them out, and do all of this jazz. So if I say Cornel new, by the way, you may not have Cornel on a computer, so you have to say get gem, install Cornel. It says 1 gem installed, but in 0 seconds. This is kind of confusing, but hey. Now we can say Cornel new, and give it a name. So like, I want to generate a new application. What should the application be about? I think I'm gonna build an application. Let me consult my notes. It's gonna be a restaurant. We're gonna do dishes. Also, I like the restaurant metaphor because it also ties into something I may use later on, which is explaining MVC again. Anyway, this is what happened. This is what got created. So there's a restaurant directory, has a bunch of stuff in it, and majority of it we will not use. Let me show you that. So there's now a restaurant directory. It has a folder called app, suggestively like surprise, surprise, models, view, and controllers in the app. There's a folder for config, bunch of just configuration for the server and like how Active Record works. Nothing you wouldn't see so far. There's a DB folder, also no surprise. Feels very Active Directory, right? Like you've seen that. There's a lib folder for whatever libraries you want to bring in or write. Public for serving public files. This is CSS, JavaScript, and just images. Because servers, web servers, send HTML and like other files differently to how they send pictures, for example. So like you have to separate these things. Specs for tests. As I promised, there won't be much of it, so like we let it be. A config file for the configuration of the app itself. Gem file generated for us, has all the things we need. A reg file, nothing again that you wouldn't see, and a readme that's empty. What really interests us is that little bit here, which are the controllers models in views. I'm gonna need my notes. So before I go about my lecture and like actually producing code, I want to go to the reg file because the default task you may be used to, the console task, doesn't exist. So I want to create it. This is the syntax. This is what I want to happen, and this is how I want to close it up. I want a bundle installed because if there's a gem file and we just generated it, you have to make sure all the gems are there. Whoops. Why? Also, why did I get the error? What do you think? Nope. I was in the main directory. If you create an app, it's going to create an app in the folder of the name of the app, so one deeper. Put that up. Let it do its thing. And as this is doing its thing, I'm going to quickly create our first model. So models will be your Ruby classes from like previous exercises. So I go to models, I create a new file. I'm going to call it dish rb and call it dish. As usual, we inherit from Active Record base because we want all the Active Record functionality, and we just don't put anything in it. Just leave it empty because like that's what we want to achieve for now. The thing is, nothing exists without a migration. By the way, this is bundle install doing its thing. It's completed. We've done rake tasks in mod 1. You remember that? Right? So how do I go about creating a migration? Before I do that, how do I check if there's all the commands I need? If rake knows about that stuff. Nice. So we have a command called create migration. By the way, this warning, just pretend it doesn't exist. It does not concern us, nor it does concern anything we'll do with Sinatra. So let it be. it nicely says that we can just disregard if we are not into whatever it's talking about. So rake db create migration, then we pass the name to it. What do we want to create the migration for? I think we just created dishes, so I want to create the dishes table. As usual, as you're used to from Active Records, it creates all the... Before I do that, it bothers me that everything is green here. Who knows why? They are green because there's a Git repository. I haven't... Yeah, I'm gonna like just add everything. Also, I have a alias for add. So it's been added, and now I want to commit. I also have an alias for git commit with a message that says edit. Very bad practice. You should have custom messages, but I'm a bit lazy. So I've committed everything, and it's not gray. So I will know which file is new because it will be green. So if I find you, if you're like doing labs or like a project, and I peek over your shoulder and everything is green, like, please commit. That means like you're not doing any git commits. It will bite you in the end. So like make sure I'm not usually doing a very good job in lectures to showing you how to do the good git hygiene because there's no time for it. I want to like show you how to build things. But a good rule of thumb is that if you write any code, after you write it, you should commit it and then only pursue any additions. You will thank yourself once you're able to like go back five edits previously and just change something that broke your whole application, and there's 20 minutes to the presentation time. I've been there, some of you have been there, you know that, do the commits. So, as previously, we just run create table. This is all Active Record syntax, you're familiar with it by now. If you don't feel familiar with any of what I'm doing right now, you should review your Active Record, because by now I will expect you to know how to do these basic things like get migrations going and create models that inherit from Active Record and all of this. So I'm gonna add a name and a price for a dish, because our app is all about dishes, let's say, restaurant app thing. So once we've done that, as usual, we run the migration. We're lucky because it worked. By the way, I do that by pressing K and B in succession, and I hold Control for both of these buttons. It's not one key, it's K, B. For those of you who use VS Code, it's going to be just Command B. After we do the migration, we want to check the schema. You can see that it created a table called dishes. It has a string and an integer, name and price, something we would expect to happen because that's what I described in the migration, so everything is fine. Now we want to create some test objects. So I'm going to quickly jump into Rails console. Sorry, getting ahead of myself, about a week. Rake console. And we are now in kind of a price session for our application, right? It's here. So what we want to do is we want to create some dishes. So they have name and price. I'm taking suggestions. Tell me what you want created. What was that? What? Like that. Barszcz ukraiński. That's how you write it in Polish. Barszcz ukraiński. It's just a beetroot soup, really. Barszcz ukraiński, Ukrainian beetroot soup. That's how we call it. Price, it's London, so it's about £34. We'll go on. Next thing. Hitas. Price, free. And generous. Anyone else? Cool. Also, who wants to tell me why what I'm doing right now is in vain? I called .new and I haven't even sent it to the database. Didn't send it to a variable. It's just like nothing happened. So I'm gonna go back. Oh, I know what they're looking at us. Yeah, these guys, Sang and Patrick, they're pretty big into this whole hacking thing. They know that I'm going to run an application now on my local network and they want to access it. And it's possible. I will show you how to do that. Because like if I serve an application on my local network, let me just tell you that. Yeah, I showed them that on my last lecture with them, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna like troll you." So they're waiting for me because he has my IP address. They're waiting for me to go up online, so they can like modify the database. Because I will have no authentication here. So once I run the thing, they know how to do that. I will show you that in a second. Anyone has a computer? Washira, I'm gonna hack the heck out of it. Never show students how to do that. Said Dan, telling the students that he's going to show it to them in a second. So, we've got 3 dishes. We've migrated the stuff. Let's make sure that they exist. Yeah, exit. And now what I'm going to say shotgun. Right? So shotgun is a server tool that just like runs the server, and like every time we do any changes to the files, they get refreshed, so the server gets refreshed, so we don't have to like stop it and run it again. That's what shotgun does. Who knows? Who gets that joke?
Is that just random?
No, Bachmanity? No. From Silicon Valley, a great show. If anyone ever wants a good show, HBO's Silicon Valley, top notch for programmers and startup people. I haven't worked for startups in several years. I can tell you this is all real. Like this show is no jokes. Anyway, so you can see that this. Actually, you know what? I really hope he's gonna use my application. So. Let me give him my IP. Who wants to jot it down? Oh no, actually, I'll put that. 10.218.5199. Yeah, but like I want to send it to Sang right now. 10.218.5199. So it'll be this. So this is my address. If you go to this website right now, Bashir, can you jump in? Yep. If you type in that into your mobile phone or your computer, you're gonna land on this website, localhost 9393. That's our like website. Bashir, can you see it? Yeah. I see it in your glasses.
Yeah, that's refused connect your firewall.
Maybe my phone. No, but anyway, I really hope Sang is gonna get in. Cool. Anyway, sorry, my firewall was off. I just tried it like a couple minutes ago, so no problem. Maybe can you check the AP again? Maybe it's like routing me for something else. It's a massive network. Anyway, okay, end of the off topic. I forgot what we were talking about completely. So we've created, remember now, back to normal lecturing mode. We've created some dishes, so they are in our database. What you see when you say shotgun and you start running the app is what the Cornel as an app generator generated for us. So there's some awful bad styling, there's a little logo and some information about the application, right? Nothing else. All of that comes for free, and all of that exists in these folders. Controllers, models, and views. So the view for the layout, this is the HTML that builds the thing we're seeing here. So if I, for example, say, because we're on the welcome page, right? Instead of saying welcome to Sinatra, I'm gonna delete all of that and say hi hi people. It's really hard to spell to write your cohort name or say it very quickly. Hi people, cool. I'm gonna go back to the app, refresh it, and now you can see that this content was changed to hi people. The way this works is that. So the layout file is the general layout for every page that this app will generate. So it always is going to start with doctype HTML, generate the head, import all the style sheets, and like do any kind of meta tags. If you want to get to know more about how these things work, I'm not going to tell you this in these lectures. In pre-work, these things would have been explained, or you can just go Google around it. HTML is pretty simple. There's not much logic. It's just information. So I don't want to spend too much time describing this, but just trust me on this. This, all until the word yield, is going to be present on every page in the app. Yield is a magic keyword. I'm going to leave it for now. And anything below yield will be on every page of the app too. Okay? So yield is a little box, like it's a magic variable that stands for whatever layout, whatever page we want to show, and whatever page we want to show will be put into here. Okay? So what happens automatically by default, Cornel says that if you make a GET request to / which is the main kind of directory on the page, just like the index page, you should use the ERB template welcome. ERB stands for embedded Ruby, which means that's HTML into which we put Ruby in. That's all. So this welcome template, Sinatra will know to look for it in the views directory. And that welcome template looks like that. I've edited the content. I'm reckless. I'm gonna delete everything but leave that div that says hi people. Save it, refresh that, and you can say that's all. You can see that's all there is. This bit comes from the footer. If I go now to the Elements tab, you can see that all this stuff, doctype HTML and all these if statements for type of a browser, they come from the layout. They're not in this welcome thing, but they are here in the layout. Make sense? Whatever we render, we not really render only that file, but layout is wrapping it all up. That's just the default Sinatra behavior. We're not going to change much of it. It's just going to stay as is. Just to prove my words to you, I'm going to copy yield like n times and refresh that here, and you can see that the same template was yielded more than once. That's how it works. Because I want that template to be shown on the main page. That's where that template gets plugged in to the layout file, and here we go. But if I put yield more than once, it's going to yield more than once. Why will it be useful? I don't think it will ever be useful, just so you know how this works. So far, so good? I know I'm like throwing a lot of stuff to you. Labs will explain more, and labs will give you some experience with treating every bit I'm talking about in detail and like just changing things around so you get to know how this really works. But hey, anyway, so we've been talking about shotgun, ERBs, layout ERBs, and yield. By the way, I've never asked the question. I should have. Who feels comfortable with HTML? So you might want to brush up on that as soon as possible. It's not like HTML is not going to kill you. It's a pretty simple thing. HTML is just a markup language. It doesn't say how things look like. It does just say, it describes the markup. That's all it does. You want, like, getting a crash course in HTML is like 60 minutes, really. Like the most basic elements can be described in 60 minutes. I will describe them as we go, but I will not describe all of it because that would be a waste of time. It's very easy. I strongly encourage, if you don't feel good with HTML, to go on YouTube and see some basic tutorials. They're very, very simple. You're not supposed to memorize everything about HTML. You're going to be looking things up. So every time you have a question, you ask yourself, for example, HTML input tag, you always say HTML tag, name of the tag, or whatever you're looking for, and add 3 magic letters, MDN, which stands for Mozilla Developer Network. There's no better place on the internet to ask questions about HTML, JavaScript, and anything else. Ooh, nice. We have hit a gold mine. But essentially, we just wanted to go to MDN, and we've just so happened there's a problem with the website. Anyway, I'm going to refresh it and see what happens. No, we're very unlucky. this is not what I wanted. But yeah, MDN for all the questions about HTML and anything else really. Like MDN is great. They're not going to tell you much about Ruby, probably nothing. But later on for JavaScript and Python, if you want, they have all the stuff. So, who knows why this is a joke? Also, I like how cringy the picture is. Who knows why computer people say there's no place like 127.0.0.1? What happens if I type that into the browser? This is not going to work, right? But if I add 9393 at the end, I'm going to end up in my app. Also, if I, instead of saying 127.0.0.1, if I say localhost, I'm going to end up in the same place. So you know what IP addresses are, right? IP address that, like, whatever your IP address is really on the physical network, 127.0.0.1 will always, on your computer, refer to its own machine. So it's like pointing back at yourself. So we refer to it as home, localhost, or just 127.0. And that's why you often will see me typing to get to my app on my computer. I will either go to localhost colon port, because this our computers have many ports. Washira, how many ports our computer can have? Not hundreds of thousands, but dozens of thousands, right? Yeah, it's like ports are, think about them as like software or tangible ways to get in and out of your computer. So if you run an app, a server, as I'm running right now, you have to run it on a certain port. You can't just run anywhere. So I run it on 9393, and that's my IP address. And that's why it immediately knows that these are other apps that I've been running. So these things are synonymous. Cool. So let's now have real fun. 130,000 ports on a Unix.
65,000 UDP, 65,000
Nice. I will tell you a joke about UDP, but we'll probably not get it.
Sure.
UDP and TCP are two different protocols for transferring data over the internet. The joke I just said works because TCP has a connection, delivery receipts in it, but UDP doesn't. So you send stuff, you don't know if it came back. That's why I would tell you a joke about UDP, but you probably wouldn't get it. It's funny. It's not funny. Hey, you programmers, you're legally allowed to be nerdy and not funny. So cool. All right. So far what we've been doing, we've been fooling around the website. You can see that some stuff gets rendered. There's a concept overview, a layout, stuff gets yielded into it. But let's take control of it now. So I'm going to show you how to. I'm going to get into the application controller because I've just realized it's 45 past and we're not even. No, we're kind of halfway through. And what I'm going to do. There's some configuration before I start in the application controller. There's some configuration that sets where the public folder is and where the views live. So when you say ERB welcome, Sinatra knows that it has to go to the views directory and look for an ERB template called welcome, but it's going to be in /views. I want to build a new route. So what I want to do is I want to react to a GET request. In the control, you describe what your server is waiting for to happen. So I'm waiting for GET to happen to a path called /dishes. I wish I could spell. Dishes do end. So that's my waiting block. I want to create a variable called dishes equals dish.all, and I'm going to sort them by dish price maybe. Why not? Let's get the dishes back from the server sorted by price. Right? Everyone on board? Cool. The template I want to show is in the folder called dishes under the index name. Because ERB or just Ruby in general, if you do that, the / has a semantic meaning. This is a division operator. So Ruby will be like, yo, I don't know what to do with it. So I'm going to put quotes around it so it gets evaluated as a string because there's a colon in front of it that gets evaluated as a symbol. The quotes get dropped and everyone's happy. Previously, it would be a slash, and Ruby would try to divide a variable dishes by index. Wouldn't find anything, would throw up, and I'm coming up with many swear words today. So like if I just stop in the middle of a sentence, there was a swear word coming. Anyway, so what we've written now is a route handler. So remember in the beginning when I said, oh, Bob is typing dot, also dot stands for www, because it's easier to say than www. Dot horses.com. Bob wants to see the page for horses. And you will do, to make that work, you write a route handler. That URL gets sent to the server. So it goes like, let's presume Bob wants to go to horses.com/dishes. That server received a request and looks at, this is what I've received, a GET request to this path. Let me do all that logic that's in that controller, and at the end, let me send that view to Bob. So, so this is what we've written. It's not going to work just yet. Why? Yeah, there's no view. So like if I try to go to /dishes, this will happen. No such file or directory, app views dishes index ERB. Dishes/index is something we've defined right here. A nice little error message with a glass of whiskey following over. There's a lot of details about your application. Essentially, if you have any problems and you see that screen, the solution is here, somewhere here. It's very important that you not immediately close these kind of screens, but read through them, even if you don't get what they're talking about. It's important to get information and like get used to it. Majority of the code of the error stuff you want to know is going to be in that header. Also, it's going to tell you which file errored out and on which line. Also very important. So you know exactly where the problem was. So let's build a template. Let's go to views. Create a folder for dishes. Also, by convention, we need a folder for every model. Index ERB, okay? And this is what goes into the index ERB. So we get a H1 that says, hello, this is the dishes page. Also, I capitalize dishes because it's a model. Also, just so. Nice. Bless you. I like how you like wanted to mute it and just blew up. It's the little things in life, you know, like you need to appreciate. Anyway, so what I'm going to show you is a bit of specific syntax for writing ERB. ERB embedded Ruby, so Ruby within HTML. This is how you embed a Ruby expression. Use these bad boys to put Ruby inside of it, because that's HTML here, right? But that's going to get evaluated as Ruby. Because your HTML, before it gets sent to the server, Ruby evaluates that file, runs every expression that is in here, and then sends just a normal text HTML file to the user's browser, right? You can't send the server to the user. You can't send Ruby to the user. Browser would just be like, I don't know how to do stuff with it, and just show you probably just the raw text. So ERB gets evaluated on the server before stuff gets sent. So these bad boys are going to host Ruby. Anything I put in here is going to be evaluated as valid Ruby. So if I say add dishes, also I didn't tell you what this add does. Dish. Before we do any of that, rake console dishes equals dish.all, right? You all know what's going to happen. Right? I'm just going to get an array of dishes. Dishes each puts the name. For example, I've just written a little function that like logs out these 3 dishes. Right? Simple. So the same thing I've done in the controller, kinda. I said add dishes is going to be a variable that will have all the dishes sorted by price. The one magical thing about it is at in front of that variable doesn't mean that this is some kind of like class instance variable anymore. Just think about these add variables as a variable that you want to have accessible in the view. I'm losing my voice already today. So the add variables will be accessible to you in the view. End of story. So you have to mark them if you want to send them over to this little thing. So go back to index. You can see now, I'm gonna close some of this stuff so it's a bit clearer. Now I'm doing a bit of iteration, okay? Because I want the ERB to work properly, I want to also end it, but even like little end keyword has to be enclosed in these brackets. And what happens between these blocks, do and end, in ERB, what we put inside of it will happen for every dish there is, just like normal Ruby. But now you have the ability to, instead of returning stuff from a function, or like logging stuff out, you will be able to generate HTML. It's pretty nifty. So now I can say, instead of this each iteration, that I want to create a paragraph element inside of that kind of ERB tags. Notice there's a equal sign inside of this on the left one. That means that Ruby will be sent to the HTML. Whatever that evaluates to gets sent to the view as text, right? The difference between this and that is that just runs as Ruby, that runs as Ruby, and whatever the text output of it is lands on the website. So if I now say dish.name, I'm going to put a nice pipe here. This is not Ruby anymore, this is just HTML, so that's going to get evaluated as raw text. I'm going to put that here, and I'm going to say dish price, and I'm going to put a pound sign in front of it. And what's going to happen now, once again, just to remind you that at dishes, I'm going to do a nice thing here, and I'm going to split down. That add dishes comes from the application controller file. For this route, this view gets rendered. Just so happens, this is that file. Therefore, this add variable gets sent here, and I have access to it. You may want, if you listened closely at the beginning, you go like, Dan, what the fuck? You said like we never do any logic in templates, right? That's why we have a controller and model. This is no logic. This is presentation logic. I have a variable called dishes that comes from the controller that decides what dishes is, and now I say what I want to show using dishes. This is not logic. If I catch you doing that here, I'm gonna call your parents and tell them what you've done. Because like this is running logic in the view, okay? This isn't. See the difference? Because like because now if I want to change what dishes is, or maybe create new variables, because it doesn't matter, I can do it in both places. But I want to think about my app in the same way, and if I want to edit logic, I want to go to the controller. So be wary, please. Anyway, I'm gonna refresh the page now. And you can see what we wanted actually gets generated now. So we have H1 that I manually have typed out, and for every dish in our database, the ones I've created on the command line, there's a dish name, pipe price, barszcz ukraiński, pipe price. Okay? So that's how it works. We've just run some Ruby that generated HTML for us. If you inspect the page, or view the page source, even better, you can see that this is all that got generated. Like there's no Ruby in here because Ruby was run on the server. Ruby said, hey, for every dish, generate this and stop, and we just have it. So I can, to make it more look like a list, I'm gonna create a UL tag, which stands for unordered list. I'm gonna wrap the whole thing in a UL tag. Instead of having p tags, I'm gonna have li's, which are list elements. And I'll refresh that, and this is like closer together and has less space. This is a list now. Let me see what's on my, before we get into questions and other stuff, let me see what's there, because we're a bit late. Nice, let's have a page for one dish before we, do you mind if we like roll over 15 minutes? No? Yes? It's okay? Cool. because I don't want to rush for this, because this is important. So if we go back to this, where do I have it? I think somewhere here. If we go back to this little thing about RESTful routes, you can see that what we've built is the index route. So there's a path to all the dishes. If you go to the controller, we're getting all the dishes. So that's something that should return on a get call, list all dogs in that app about dogs. We have an app about dishes. So that's what we've built. What I want to build now is a show route, which shows a particular dog, or in our case, a dish. So what we do is we get dishes / ID, and this is going to be crazy. So we do dish equals dish find params :ID in square brackets ERB dishes / show. I'm going to quickly get a show page for dishes, for a dish, a particular one. Show ERB h1. In the h1, I want to interpolate the dish name. Now it's that this thing costs equals dish price. Nice. Okay, cool. So this is the show template. Yeah.
Why don't you on these pages need to do the HTML tag and top and all the body and header?
What's in that file is what gets put into this yield thing. Nothing like that's why I don't have to write it in. This is why it's powerful. Normally, if you were writing files by hand, you'd have to put all of that stuff here.
Okay.
But you don't have to, because what gets sent to every page is this, whatever template you wanted, in the yield tag, and this. Pretty nifty.
Where are you telling it that like say the index ERD goes into the yield?
It's default in Sinatra.
Oh, okay.
That's what a lot of framework libraries are basically like. So all of the like in React, you don't actually touch the HTML. You just kind of like all of the code that you're writing and stuff like that. Just automatically gets loaded up into it anyway.
Yep. So this is the show page for a dish. I'm gonna show you how this works, and then I'm gonna explain how this works. So if I go to /dishes, I see all the dishes. But if I go /dish ID, for example 1, I see the page for that first dish. Okay. If I go to /free, for example, I get the page for French fries. The way this works is a bit complex, so hold on to your seats. That's going to be crazy. So we built a handler, a route handler for requests of type GET, because browsers only make GET requests. That's why I want you to like think of browsers for now. They do more, but like for now they don't do GETs. If someone goes to /dishes /:ID, special syntax, and you may have noticed I have not typed the colon. I just said 1. That little bit is called a route parameter. So this is something that's not hard-coded. This is presumed. It's like, oh, there's going to be something in here, and I would like to think about it as an ID. So to prove to you that I'm not just lying, I'm going to put a binding pry here, and I'm going to go to that page for dishes /1, for example, and you can see that nothing's happening. My website's hanging. Okay, that means we've hit bybug. We hit binding.pry. Close that, and you can see that we've hit that point. And in Sinatra, there will be a bit more stuff than you're used to when looking at stuff in your binding. But what I want to check, what I actually want to prove to you is that these things get interpolated as an ID. So now Sinatra knows that whatever was after dishes / will be thought of as ID. So dishes /1 is an ID. In Sinatra, there's an object called params available on every request that will be a hash that has all the params we passed into the request. And that's how I'm able to access it. You can see it has one little thing that's called ID, and it's 1. I can add as many things as I want here. I can say ID, age, horse. And now, if I go to slash dishes slash 1, 13, yes. Can't get enough of myself. Exit. If I go to this page, dishes slash 1 slash 13 slash yes, press enter, you can see it hangs. That means we're in ERB. We hit the binding. So I go into params, and now there's a hash with ID of 1, age 13, horse, yes. So whatever you pass into URL after these colons in the controller gets transpiled into a little hash of information that you can then use in your controller. So think of it as your web framework being one big function that takes arguments only using URLs. That's a very safe way to start building your understanding about what's happening. Sorry. So I don't want any of that. I just want the ID. But once again, you can see params is just a hash. Therefore, you can access the keys of a hash using square brackets. So what I'm doing is I'm finding a dish with the ID of whatever was passed to my app. And I show the dishes slash show template. That template just so happens that it understands that dish has a name and a price and just shows us this. Cool. Let's go back here. Exit, go to the normal way of looking at things. If I give it an ID that's out of range, like 47, the Sinatra is just going to immediately, oh sorry, I forgot to get the binding out of the way. But Sinatra is going to flop. It's going to be like, yo, couldn't find a dish with ID of 47. We're going to deal with these things later on. For now, we just quietly pretend that we don't write bugs and we don't deal with them. But we will handle that later on. Last thing I want to do before we wrap up the lecture is that everything's fine and nice. We have this application controller that handles the requests, but I've just shown you, obviously we don't have time to build all the 7 RESTful routes, but imagine you have 5 models, each has 7 routes, that's 5 times 7, as far as I'm concerned, is 35. Imagine having 35 handlers in that file, plus some more stuff for the general application. It gets pretty big pretty quickly. So you want you want to be sane, and you want to have these in separate files. You want to have every controller for every model in a separate file. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go create a new file called dishes controller.rb. Okay. I'm going to define it. Application controller. I inherit from application controller because application controller inherits from Sinatra base. This is where I get all this fancy syntax and functionality from. We just take it as granted. Once again, the more code we're using that's written by someone else, the more we have to just memorize and know how to use. That's not Ruby anymore, that's Sinatra. Just so happens it's written in Ruby. So I'm inheriting from that thing. That thing inherits from Sinatra base, therefore we're able to run all of this get magic. Like that's not a Ruby function, that doesn't exist in plain Ruby. So I'm gonna go to dishes controller and plug that in. Ooh, what just happened? I thought I've cut it. Flip, cool. So I put it here, and there's one thing I have to do, because if I now run that, you can see if I go to slash dishes, Sinatra, I don't know the word ditty. Is that a slang for song from like 1950s? Is it? Yeah. So Sinatra doesn't know that one. Can't sing it to you. It doesn't exist. You can see it kind of points, alludes to like, I think it wait. You know what? Try this. Class application controller get dishes, do hello world, for example. It says that immediately shows you. It thinks you wanted to get dishes, but it tells you that it was looking for it here. So if you have more than one controller, Sinatra will not know about that unless you tell him to know about that. So you go to config.ru, and before, or maybe after, we'll see. And you say use dishes controller, all right? That controller is called dishes. in the config file, you need to mention it once you create it, or else Sinatra will not know about it. Now if I go back here and refresh, everything works just as previously. But now we get the benefit of having that code decoupled. Like there's an application general handlers file, and there's a file for all the stuff that regards dishes. Okay, that was an intro. There's more stuff coming later on. Before I finish it, I want to show you something in here. I want to keep that server running, and I want, because like, I'm not proud of myself doing that, but like, saying that, but like, we haven't figured out why sometimes Sinatra apps using Shotgun crash, and they keep the server running, even if the terminal window is closed. You would think that if you close the terminal window, the server dies. There are moments when that does not happen, okay? And then you want to develop and you want to work on stuff, you say shotgun just to like boot up the server, and you get that message, which is, yo, listening, runtime error, no acceptor, port is in use or requires root privileges. Also, root, no route. So this can happen to you. Your server will crash, then you will try to like use it, and you will think nothing's running, all the terminals are closed, you open a new one, you get that. So you're like, no, it's not used, like everything's closed. There's a way for processes in on your computer to run without any visual interface. They can be there in the background. You can use a command called top to see what's running on your computer, but this is a bit daunting. You can say htop if you installed it. Yeah, I didn't, so sorry, I'm not sure that. But the best way to filter that, there's one little command. I don't want you to understand it, but I want you to know how to use it in case things go awry. So the command is lsof -i, and then you pass in whatever port you're scanning for, okay? So once you run that, you get a list of all the processes, right? And who is running them and where they're running and all other stuff. But what's most important is that there should be your username and there should be a PID that stands, if I'm not wrong, for process ID. This is how you hunt your prey. Because once you have found which process ID it is that keeps on running, but you don't have access to it, you can kill it. So this is the process here. Like this server just keeps on running, but I want to kill it. So the syntax is as follows: kill -9, and you pass in process ID. In our case, this is 24639. I press enter. Now I run this lsof again. You can see there's no such process. Also, this thing blinks with a blue dot and is set to report that it's been killed. So it may happen to you, it may not happen to you. In case it happens, here we go. It's documented on video. You can go back to it. Also, the last bit of the README will talk about it.